All right, well, today we're just going to cover a little bit real quick of how to use Nate's bioread library. I'm going to show how to use it inside a little notebook example. And I think if you have any problems getting set up with running a notebook on data on the study drive, just let us know. We can help you get that set up. The first thing you got to do is you got to import some stuff that's useful. I don't actually need CSV or path. I'm not really using those right now, but the main thing you got to import is the bioread library. And then we're going to import pylab, which gets us matplotlib and some other stuff. And then we're going to make our figures higher DPI just so they look nicer. But I'm going to run that. I'm going to go get a whole bunch of weird errors because I'm using Afcron as an example. Please ignore weird errors. They're just deprecation warnings. The main thing you got to do to read a file is, unsurprisingly, tell bioread, hey, I would like to read a file. And today we're just going to look at this Afcron test participant run. And what happens when we do that? What we get is a task object that is representing an acknowledge file of a certain version revision. It's got some channels and it knows what its sample rate is. We can interrogate it. Hey, let's see, what all can a task, what all can a bioread file do? I don't even remember.
If there's a dir function?
Yeah. Dir function just shows you what things you can call in Python.
I'm just a Python baby.
Me too. I'm always learning stuff, but it's not as useful because, I mean, you have to skip by all the goofballs hidden stuff, but then you can be like, oh, it's got channels and a data length and some information about if it's compressed. The thing I really want to know though is not any of that, but I would like to know what channels there actually are. So I can just say task.channels and it will pretty print them in a list because Nate was smart and made the channel have a representation that just gets printed. That's pretty handy. So one channel will tell you what it's named in Acknowledge land, which for these data files has John's somewhat confusing naming convention, but there you go. That's what it's the same thing that you would see in the left-hand side of Acknowledge. It knows how many samples, how fast they were sampled, and by default, bioread loads everything into memory, and so you load everything true. So we've got mostly some pretty standard like Zygo and corrugator and respiration belt and other stuff. If we want to start looking at the actual data, we can just say, hey, matplotlib, let's plot some of the data. We're going to take channel 0, which is in this case the Zygo channel. I'm just going to plot the whole thing, like the entire length of it. Now, this is not quite as useful as what you might actually want to do, but it at least lets you see there is data. It doesn't have a super handy x-axis because it's doing scientific notation. That's fine. We can confirm that there's data. If we knew that there was
the x-axis is in samples, not in seconds.
Oh, good point. Good point. But we can define a little helper function that takes the channel time index and uses that as the x-axis and the data as the y. And it can take a beginning and an end point into both those things so that now we can be like, I know that somewhere around second 585 and second 985, there's something I want to look at and zoom in on. So I'm going to plot both channel 0, which is the first channel, Zygo, and channels 3, which is the fourth channel, corrugator. Let's plot them on top of each other between this 10-second window. Let's see what that looks like. Ooh, look, it's wiggly stuff. This might be a good way to, for example, zoom in on things that you're like, this problem, this file is really weird in a specific spot. You can see weird artifacts or whatever else you wanted to look at. And that's actually the main thrust of what I wanted to show is just how easy it is to use bioread. That's my whole talk, the end. But really, you could make more interactive matplotlib things pretty easily that would let you actually scroll through like Acknowledge lets you. This is just the cheap and cheesy kind of a way. I don't know. Have you messed at all, Nate, with the matplotlib interactive graphing stuff?
I have not. I mean, I think their support for Jupyter notebooks is pretty good now, so you can do it.
It is. It's really cool. I wanted to pull up an example from MNE if I can. Here's a cool like EEG library that lets you have a little scrubbable time slider, and you can scroll through and see your activation. Wow, neato.
That's pretty neat.
Yeah, so that stuff is apparently pretty easy to do in Matplotlib. I have not really looked into it. Yeah, any questions? That's pretty much all I wanted to talk about. I'm going to stop recording and then we can chat.